Okay, well, let's get into the fun stuff here. So we've all seen some crazy shit in our careers. I think you probably a little less than Carrie and I have, but we still know that you've seen some stuff. And so I think when we chatted earlier, one of the things that stuck with us is you mentioned expectation setting. And so, you know, as much as I'm sure I want to hear the stories around this, but I also think what's so important about this is, especially young in our careers, like this is that skill set I think we all miss on several times and fail on before we get it right, because everybody's scared to push back, right? It's scary to say no to somebody. It's scary to, or we just want to show up, you know, and look so good in front of everybody. And so, so let's start there, because I think this is relevant to all of us, no matter where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think setting expectations with partners is so crucial, because like I said, it's not a one-size-fit-all approach, number one. And number two, you're working with partners that are sophisticated, that have been doing this for years, that, oh, I sold, you know, this financial system back in 1980, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that was around back then? Like, they had numbers back then? I mean, and these people, like I said, they have big egos. And a lot of times having to work with some of these folks with big egos, they look at me like, who are you? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm over here just kind of like, well, you know, I'm the one who's going to make you successful and help you hit your number. So, you know, let's talk through it. And, you know, I actually had a conversation once with a partner, and, you know, very nice, you know, and like I said, big egos, they happen. Unfortunately, this person's ego was so big, didn't go on mute, and was talking smack, just full on, when I was like, okay, let's walk through your marketing plan. And it was just kind of like, this kid. And I was just sitting there like,
I can hear you.
Yeah, and it's one of my, I'm always on mute for that reason, because I got a good heart, but this mouth, I mean, it's gotten me into trouble. But this partner wasn't on mute, and I was trying to say, like, look, like this is what you need to do to be successful. And it was like, you know, just kind of like, scoff here, scoff there. And I'm like, well, maybe he didn't mean to, or maybe he wants me to hear this, you know. And no, it became very apparent that he didn't realize he was on mute. And finally, I'm just like, I can hear you in the background. So it sounds like you don't agree with me on that. So why don't you tell me what you're thinking? And it was just kind of crickets, clicking, went on mute, and then went off mute. And then, oh, well, yeah, you know. So I think what I learned after that was, you know, just for setting expectations, you know, make sure you have buy-in and support from, you know, the executives and the people above you, because those are the folks that they will listen to. And, you know, I've had to do this my entire life. People don't take you seriously, but sometimes I don't even take myself seriously. But I had to ensure that I was setting this partner up for success. And I believe that every single tool that I had laid out and this entire plan to say, like, hey, this is how we're going to get you to hit this many opportunities by the end of Q3. Perfect, you know. And eventually I did have to get buy-in from the execs above me and say, hey, why don't you jump on this call with me? So that way I have you to just back me up a little bit on it. So That was me learning a lesson about setting expectations. A lot of times the expectations are, you are going to be doing this because so-and-so's on this call and they're going to say so. So hopefully that makes sense. But
yeah, for sure. I think it's, well, outside of expectation setting, I think, you know, a theme you've mentioned a couple of times that I think is interesting is age and people not taking us seriously with experience. And, you know, as marketers coming up, I think, you know, Ricky, you're younger in your career, but obviously you've got the experience. And so I think it's interesting that, I mean, I'm sure that in other industries, people go up against it too. But, you know, I guess where I'm going with it is, you know, how do you think how do you think as marketers and as young professionals, we can kind of prove ourselves, or not prove ourselves because we've already have, but how do we assert ourselves in a way that we can get that trust or that, I guess, respect? Is that the words? I feel like we have to sing RESPECT, but I don't know. I feel like it's challenging, right? It's, It's a shame because you did the work, you know what you're doing.
Right.
And so what makes you think what makes people think it's okay to think that, it's like, I earned my spot here, I earned my right to be here. So why is it okay to think that you know more than me when, I've got this role? I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's actually a good question. And a tactic I've used, especially with partners, is the bandwagon approach. And I can tell people, I won the Nobel Prize in, marketing, and, here we are, and they're just kind of like rolling their eyes and scoffing. But if they don't believe that this is going to be successful for them, then they're not going to do it. So in many ways, I'm just like, I actually I'm talking to partner A, for instance. I spoke to partner B, and they did this, and they got this and this. Well, who'd you talk to? Wait, what did they? And the next thing you know, they're like, well, wait, they did it? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do they have? And I'm just like, well, they are being given every single opportunity that you're being given in terms of, all these marketing assets that we've packaged up for you on a silver platter. And I know, in the past, I've actually given partners a lot of marketing content to work with, a lot. And I've heard from some people that not everyone does that for their partners. So I remember...
I would agree.
Yeah. And it got to the point, where I'm just like, how are we really going to get them to listen and adopt this? And I use the bandwagon approach 100%. And I feel like the bandwagon approach is good with partner marketing. It's good with customer marketing too. If you're talking to a customer, you can say like, oh, another customer similar to yours, or similar to you did something just like this. And, they've seen, a lot of success this way. And it's like, oh, really? They adopted this new module? And it's like, yeah, and they're being really successful with it. So I think that's kind of like my little reverse psychology tactic to get them to listen to me, because I wasn't there in the 80s, when they were selling, that old dinosaur system. I'm just like, what am I going to do? And so,
yeah.
And a lot of times it's hard, especially when we're virtual, to get people to, really understand you. They see a face, they see some goofball on the other end. 'Cause I'm pretty goofy. I like to really kind of break that down quickly. Like I'm good at what I do, but I like to have fun as well.
You are fun.
Thank you.
And it sounds like some of the, your sales background comes into play daily, right? I mean, what you just described, and
absolutely,
trying to get people to understand and move in the direction that you want them to head into.
Yep. And a lot of times the people doing the marketing at these smaller partners, they are salespeople too. They're salespeople and marketing people. Yeah. So I will take off my marketing hat, put my sales hat on, and be like, let's talk about this, and a lot of times, once we get their buy-in, it's fine. It's not an issue. It's really that kind of initial time, just really trying to get the buy-in from them to start using the programs. So.
Yeah. Interesting. So, okay. So one of the other mishaps we talked about. Okay, so I love MDF, right? MDF funds. I know in your previous role there were other terms for a co-op dollar. So many different terminologies for this. But I think it's interesting because, this is when you're in channel marketing, right? This is what everybody's looking for. So we all want leads, right? They all want leads. How do I get leads? And how are you going to help me pay for it? So I think, so talk to us a little bit about your MDF mishap.
Yeah. And I love to spend money, and that's one of my favorite things to do. And when I'm just like, ooh, I've got budget, and we can spend it, our partners can spend it, great. The thing is, it's not a free for all, and a lot of times partners say, oh, perfect, let's do a direct mail send, and I'm just like, okay, great, and I'm just like, pitch it to me. Let's talk about some direct mail stuff you can do, or some paid social or something, and they will spin this up and they'll be like, this. I'm like, that's beautiful. How much does it cost? And they're like, oh, well, for this first quarter, it's $30,000, and the second quarter, and I'm like, whoa, like, holy cow. So
marketing's
I think
expensive, Ricky.
Yeah, so's my time, and I was just like, my gosh. And I think that's kind of where setting expectations comes in again. It's like, look, like we need to have a plan, not just for your entire year, but like this MDF request that you're putting in. How many leads are you going to get from it? Like, what does the follow-up look like? You can send as many pieces of direct mail, until the cows come home. But what does the follow-up piece look like? What's next? How are you really going to close the loop with that initial send? I love to incorporate swag, stuff we all get. It's a real term. People who aren't in marketing are just like, oh, I thought that was from The Office. I've had 2 people say that to me within the past month. But swag works, and I think people are 10 times more likely to respond to you. And I'm like, great, but there has to be some type of follow-up with it. So with MDF, it's like, people have so many ideas, and they're like, here we go, here we go, here we go. And it's like, boom, it's next thing you know, you've got a $60,000 program on paper. And I'm like, okay, we gotta trim this down just a little bit, because it's fun to plan these things out, but we gotta have a plan, So setting the expectations early with, MDF, even with the internal team, I'm going to push it a little bit here by saying our internal team used to communicate and say, like, we have money for you, like, put your requests in now. And the next, I'd get like 10 requests, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, woo. And, sure enough, I was the one filtering the requests and looking at all of them and saying, denied, denied, denied. But why? It's like I said, there has to be some sort of, process with it, and like some sort of plan moving forward with MDF. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever feel like you approved something, or that you were talked into something maybe that you shouldn't have, or you held fast?
How much can I say? No, I mean, I think I was pretty consistent, and I think I don't like telling people no, but I think with MDF funds, I had to look at it that, this is, the money of, the company I work for. I looked at it as my money. And I really had to take it that way, because you can't just spend money just for the sake of spending it, like you're going to have to see results from it. And in many ways, I would approve something for one partner, and thinking in my mind, I would get another request from a different partner, and it just I'm like, I have to approve this too because I approved it for this partner. And then I would have to have a conversation with the internal team saying, hey, we're approving a lot of this and this lately. Are we seeing a big return on this? And if the answer was no, it's like, great, I'm moving forward, not going to be approving MDF requests like this. And granted, I wasn't even the one really approving them. I was sending them off for approval, but I'm not going to send some off because then the higher ups are going to be like, what is Ricky smoking? Like it's not April, it's Christmas, it's like, what are you doing? So I had to make myself, I had a reputation too. So if I'm going to send all these mediocre requests in, they're going to look at me and be like, Ricky, what are you doing? So. And
did you find that the partners would talk amongst themselves like, well, Ricky did this and Ricky did that. And
it's funny. Everyone knows everyone, especially in, certain industries. So I think one of the last events I was at in person was our partner summit in Orlando. And Carrie, Dana, you were both there.
We were with you.
It was so fun.
All of our last work event. I know, still. That's even more depressing.
March 2020 was when that was.
How sad was... Oh, my gosh. I mean, we had the best time, though. I mean, that's super scary, though. And I just remember being in Orlando and Carrie being like, Ricky, come get a hurricane with me. Let's get a drink. And I'm just like, no, like, I'm tired. And then I got in there and the bartender made one, and I was like, "Give me one too." I'm just like, geez, I'm so easy. I was like, "Geez, I'm such a pusher." But like I said, I don't like to say no. But yes, to your question, partners talk all the time, and it's funny. Sometimes I would test it out. This is kind of not the best way to do things. I would drop little stories or hints to one. And sure enough, a week later, another partner would be like, "Oh, so I heard," and I was like, "Aha!" Like you do talk. So, and it's fine.
I heard Ricky's approving all marketing funds this quarter.
I heard Ricky's a cheap date in Orlando. Which is true, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, people do talk, but I also could use that to my advantage because I would be like, well, I'm going to make them compete against one another too, like let's try and incentivize the partners by whoever can get the most, I don't know. I think we put like, the most, conversions on this program or, whichever partner can post the best blog on, this topic, like we will give you a certain amount of MDF funds. And I would sometimes be like, we've already received 2, and people would be like, you received 2 from who? And it was kind of like that playful banter. Not playful, it was actually really strategic. But partners really, they thrived on that. They're very competitive because, they're running a business and they want to be the ones on the leaderboard at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter. And I would do that all the time. I would put the partner leaderboard, here are the top partners. And like I said, bandwagon approach, they all want to be on that winning bandwagon. And if they weren't, I bet you that they were just like ripping their hair out on the other end. Like, how do I, get, to the top 3 spot? And I don't know. I think that was really kind of a cool tactic that I used to get people and partners especially to
I love that. Mental note, Dana, if we ever get to do a partnership with Terminus. you're spilling the tea on all your strategies. We'll
be on the other side again. See, my partner channel experience, I was always on the other side, Ricky, right? I was playing I was the MDF queen. I was getting it from all of our partners I ran my whole conference on the funds. I was like, this is great. There goes all that budget. But so Ricky's gonna try and make us compete with all the other agencies.
That's what it sounds like. All right, we like a good competition, don't we,
Dana?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, if I was, please. I mean, you call me, and I'm ready to have that conversation with you. I would love to just,
We'll be your biggest pain in your ass, Ricky. I'll be like, Ricky, I need a new piece of content to send out. And I just don't want to co-brand it. I want to be able to tell my story in it. So...
That's another thing. Everyone wants to co-brand everything. Like, we want to co-brand this, and it's, it's funny. One thing that you do for a partner, if you do it for one partner, then the other ones find out, and you have to do it for all of them. So, and that's not just true with your resellers. It's true with your ISV partners and your marketplace partners as well too. So,
I've got your children. It's true for your children too.
And your dogs.
Yeah.
And your dogs.
And hey, I'm out of my dad's kids. I'm the youngest of 5, and so I know what it's like to kind of, and people are like, oh, the youngest is the golden child. Well, not in my freaking family. I was like given the scraps, and there I am shivering in the corner while everyone else has like mink coats on, and I'm just like, great. So I know how that goes. So you're right, Carrie, with children too.
I love it.